through here. Thank you so much for coming. Tonight we're going to talk about technology, and specifically we're going to have a panel discussion about technology, and it's something we've been meaning to do for a long time. This is one in a series of monthly events we have. The Cape for Economic Development Council has a series called CFEDC Presents, and the idea is that we bring issues, we bring people and projects, and we talk about things that are of concern to us as business people and as residents, things that are of concern for economic development in the most broad sense of all. And technology, as I said, is one we've been meaning to do for a long time. It's sort of a meta subject. But we've assembled a crack team of technologists here. And what we want to do is have a panel discussion, but I thought it would be useful to have these folks, first of all, come to spend a few minutes talking about where they're coming from. So spending a few minutes talking about their experience, the projects they're working on, providing a context, a sort of vantage point, so that we can then sit down and have a discussion for the balance of the hour. And I hope you all will participate in that discussion. I hope when they're speaking, if you have questions about their particular projects, what they're working on, I hope you will save those, either so that they can be part of the panel discussion, or if they're very, very specific, like where did you get that tie from or something, then you can talk to the people afterwards. But let's have just a very...
Well, this is an easy question.
That's right. So we'll do that. I'm going to go first here. I'm speaking on behalf of CFEDC and for my own part as a technologist. And then we'll have John Hinnant is here from Wilmington Downtown, and he's going to talk about, among other things, about mobile and technology for getting people connected to the downtown. And Vaughn Hagerty is here from the Star News, and he's going to talk about technology and journalism. Hyperlocal is a word we use to describe ways to use technology to connect a place as opposed to what sometimes happens, which is technology alienates people from the place where they live. So Vaughn's going to talk about that. And then Robert Sharp from DigiEffects and John Cornelius from Wide Open Technologies run some businesses here that I consider quite successful at seeming like Silicon Valley businesses, reaching out to a national, international group of consumers, using social media and other things. So they're going to talk a little bit about entrepreneurism. Is that how you say entrepreneurship? Entrepreneurism? And how to do that with technology. And actually, I was going to say a few words, and if you get me started on technology, I'm going to just go every direction. I'm going to say very little. Instead of going through all the slides and sort of departing in these ways, I'm going to say very little. I want to hear these guys talking with all. But as I said, I'm speaking on behalf of Cape for Economic Development Council, but also my day job as a technologist. So I do a couple things locally, and I work for IBM, and there I'm something called an information architect. But I thought that what we would talk about, because of CFEDC's concerns, are these things: content curation and sharing. But it's not, you can't see that very well. I've got a bunch of slides, but I'm going to boil it down because I think I just want to sort of get to the panel discussion. But the thing I really wanted to say is that, as we say each time, Cape for Economic Development Council is interested, perhaps above all, in connecting people and projects and resources. And our main, our first principle is that everything that we need for long-lasting economic development, a thriving community, good business, good practices is already here, and it's a matter of building that connective tissue. There's so many projects going on, there's so many technology projects and other projects. How do we build a connective tissue in this community to get people knowing about each other, to promote these efforts outside in our state and in our nation? So technology is one of the main ways that happens. I'm very, very interested in talking about technology as a means for telling the stories that we have here, connecting the people that are doing incredible things here, making sure we have those resources. Increasingly, technologically speaking, those resources are dirt cheap, so getting people just to know about how to use those resources. And of course, because of our concerns, we think that this information can be public and that we can communicate in a transparent way, that the data formats and so forth will also be open. So, as I said, I was going to whiz through a bunch of things. All of this is possible because of something called the web, in the most general sense of the web. There's different ways to look at the very quick history of the web, and my own sense of it, this may be a useful context, but in some earlier version of the web, it was all about websites. You wanted to build a website. It was a discrete place, and you would hope to get as many people there as possible, and they would participate in your website. Or they would just be at your website. And then in some other evolution of the website, maybe around that one people called Web 2.0, the idea was that so many people are going on the web now, and they're finding that it's a part of their life, so we want people to go to these sites and interact with those sites. And maybe YouTube is an example of a place where they discovered that they would have content, and that the content would be a thing around which people would participate. But they're still participating in those sites. So content, the web is a bunch of content. In the first instance, the web is a bunch of websites. People go to Yahoo and they're looking through the directory, and then it becomes the case that it's a kind of participation, and content is what matters, and data is what matters. And then quite recently, things like Facebook show us that the technology, and I hope this is something we can talk about, the technology is such a now a ubiquitous part of our lives that it isn't about the sites anymore, and it isn't even about creating new communities on the web. If you have a business, or if you have an issue you're concerned about, it's making those businesses and issues and products and services available in the communities that people already have on the web, or outside the web. People have book clubs, and they have ways to buy groceries. You know, it's hard to open up a grocery selling site on the web, but if people already have clubs where they are talking about groceries, it's getting into those communities that already exist that matters now on the most immersive recent version of the web. So this is a list of things, you know, however much we sort of talk about social media right now and those things that matter technologically, a lot of those services and sites are still predicated on some data formats, technologies, and I think it's worth talking about those technologies, especially the CFEDC. You know, we want to reach out to people, and we want to know about people and find out what people are doing. We could talk more about all of these, but I wanted to simply list some of the things that I think are abiding technologies, however much it seems like, my grandma just gets on Facebook and boom, she's off. She's reviewing movies. Well, underlying that, there are still technologies that, you know, we want to be content providers. So one of the things I wanted to say is CFEDC, I think, is in the business of providing content about this region, and providing content about the efforts that people are doing in this region, economic, and helping people. So we still care about the underlying technologies, and among those are these things that, as I said, I was going to go on a tear and start describing all of these. I absolutely won't do that, but these sorts of technologies, RSS, XML, ways to link that make what you link public and sharing, these are the sort of things that I think continue to be very important for us, and I think for anybody who's in business. It turns out that contacts and databases, you know, there's lists of people that you go to, and you want to sort of find out, did they open it, and how many people do I have in Leland? Those sort of, that kind of database management, I think, continues to be a very, very important part of this interactive world that we live in. So bedrock technologies like contacts and databases, RSS widgets, and all these things. Again, I won't go too far on it, but a couple of things just to point out before I want to turn it over to these folks. But I threatened to browbeat my fellow board members with a little tutorial about how to do some public bookmarking, how to be better content providers and curators. I'm not going to do that, but I thought that these would be evocative of something. So here's a couple of tweets for me on the right-hand side, right? This is me telling Gravity Records that I want to order that reggae masterpiece, True Democracy from Still Pulse. And what I wanted to, you know, one of the things I hope we can talk about is, we always say technology, people are in Sweden and doing business with people in San Francisco is wonderful. Are there ways that technology can be used to bond us with people that we live with in this community? And, you know, this is a kind of a modest example, but I'm asking Gravity Records in a public way that allows me to express what my tastes are, but also allows us to transact online. Give me that reggae masterpiece, True Democracy, please. And they wrote back and said, you want a CD or you want vinyl? I said, I want a CD, please. And the other one, of course, is that we send out on Twitter all the time announcements about our events, and people retweet them. So I send out, we're going to have an event on technology, and people retweet that and so forth. These are, in the interest of time, these are only meant to be sort of pointing at things that we might talk about. There's so much else to say, and I want to hear these guys talk. So we can maybe follow up, but again, CFEDC, its mission is to curate and in some sense to provide content about all of us in this area, to connect that content, and I think technology, I'm interested personally, and I think our organization is interested in technology that serves that purpose.